Yeah, intermittent fasting is popular, but I tend to focus on the funner part, which is the feasting, right? So people are like, yeah, starving. No, but yeah, no, it's definitely what I think it's done is, and I'll say this is like as long as you have the right food choices numbers, a variety of diet structures can work. That's the key is the right macronutrients, like we talked about, right food choices. From there, the plan is a little more flexible. And to me, where meal frequency, diet structure, things like intermittent fasting versus the traditional fitness spread is all about what makes your diet the most practical, the most functional, the most sustainable to follow, the easiest to follow, the most enjoyable to follow. And where I think the strength of intermittent fasting is in the real world, when you got a career and a social life and a family life, most people can't do the six small meals and starve at night and go to bed dreaming about food. It's just not practical based on our social setup. So to me, I think where intermittent fasting's strength is that it gives people who've kind of failed on that type of structure a viable alternative to get results. Where I don't think it's great is it's now being sold as a magic pill, right? Like as long as you skip breakfast, you can eat whatever the hell you want and junk load on a bunch of crap, and you're going to get great results. And that's just not the truth. It really is a great alternative, but it's not a magic pill. So I think that's where you ask where it's not applicable. It's the people who are trying to use it as the next magic pill, just saying, hey, I'll skip breakfast and then I'll go, eat KFC the rest of the day and get results. But for someone who's a busy professional, who's looking for a plan that makes it more practical in their daily life, I think reducing meal frequency a little bit, perhaps intermittent fasting, and like I said, my core principle is eating the majority of calories and carbs at night. Just gives people a much more enjoyable plan, and then it becomes more of a lifestyle plan, like I said, as opposed to a quick fix diet. So some people who it doesn't always work for, and I make some modifications for, is like maybe performance athletes who are training twice a day or something like that. You do have to make some modifications because it's just a very unique situation. But for 95% of the people out there, maybe train, once a day, 3 to 5 days a week, and who have a real job, I think it's a very good diet structure to follow to make your plan very practical.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned something kind of in that last paragraph that I know a few people probably their ears perked up. Eating all your carbs at night, Nate? How is this possible? I thought we were supposed to eat our carbs in the morning so we burn them up throughout the day. Let's talk a little bit about that, man.
It's really that's where I fall back onto the science side of me and just said I was afraid to try it too. A lot of the theories first convinced me. It's like, hey, human beings evolved on a fasting, feasting cycle. We were out hunting and eating lighter or fasting majority of the day while we're hunting and gathering food, and then coming home and having our big feast at night on whatever we caught. And that's when my ears first perked up. I'm like, wow, that actually fucking makes a lot of sense. Right. Like, this whole fitness nutrition thing, maybe but I am skeptical. I'm like, no way. I just grew up in bodybuilding nutrition, and that's just completely false. And, it's been ingrained in me for 30 years that you eat, six small meals a day and you starve at night. But, really started diving into some of the science of some of the intermittent fasting, and a few studies are just like, they looked at one where people, ate, like I think 80% of their carbs during the day or 80% of their carbs in one meal at night. And the people who followed the nighttime eating pattern, lost more body fat, retained more muscle. And there were, there's several more studies that are out there. And I'm like, you know what? All right, the science is saying it too. It's unbiased science, not science funded by different health food companies. Right. And I said, what? I'm gonna give this a shot because it just sounds too good. And I'll tell you, I'll never go back to any other way of eating again. It just makes it too easy, and the results were just as good, if not better. And the reason and basically, like I said, there's science on how it improves insulin sensitivity, nutrient partitioning to the muscle cells. When you kind of basically think of it as two different times. During the day, you're kind of driving your car around, right? You're active, and then you come home and you fill up the tank at night. There's a lot of science supporting it, and like I said, beyond the science, in terms of practicality, this is the one the one strategy that has helped my clients more than any other in my 15-year career. It's like you work with a busy professional and they're like, wow, you're basically telling me I can eat a little bit lighter during the day, eat some good paleo foods and then come home and have a big satiating, satisfying, dinner with like steak and potato or something like that, fish and rice, whatever. They're like, wow, I think I can do that. Yeah. Whereas, diets in the past are like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's great, Nate, that's your career, but there's no way I can do that.
Yeah.
It really has, since I switched people over to the structure a couple years back, even people who had failed on like 10 different diets in the past were now getting results. And like I just said, from a practicality standpoint, adherence rates skyrocketed, people's results skyrocketed. And like I said, it just, became a lifestyle plan for a lot of my people who could never find something that worked for them. So it's from the practicality down to the science. It's definitely the approach that I will advocate the rest of my life, basically.
That's fantastic. So this question's for me, and then I got one more for you before I let you go.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm interested in your perspective. So if you're eating the majority of your carbohydrates at nighttime, like you're talking about, what if someone trains in the morning or the afternoon? How do you take advantage of that post-workout window in terms of glycogen loading? Do you follow that, or do you not believe in that?
Yeah, I believe in it somewhat, but I believe in it for different reasons, meaning that to me, the most important thing, anabolic activity, here's the thing about like glycogen restoration, even protein synthesis, anabolic activity takes time post-workout. So the post-workout window, the 3-hour window is a little bit of a myth, meaning that it's really about what you do for building muscle, restoring glycogen reserves. It's really about what you do with your diet over the next 36 to 48 hours, right? Because protein synthesis is elevated for 48 hours. Glycogen restoration can take 24 hours or more. So in terms of anabolic activity, it's really about what you do with your diet as a whole. Where the window is true is that your body can become very catabolic very quickly after a workout because you depleted both muscle and liver glycogen, especially liver glycogen stores. So your body's primary goal is to fuel its brain, right? So if it doesn't have glycogen in the liver, it's going to get glucose somehow, trust me. And one of the backup mechanisms is amino acids, right? Yeah. Breaking down muscle tissue and things like that. So to me, the post-workout window is more about being anti-catabolic. Well, you don't need to load hundreds of grams of carbs to become anti-catabolic. You can have a post-workout snack, 25 to 75 grams of carbs, just to make sure you have immediate fuel, and then still have your main meal and your main post-workout meal at night. So regardless of when you train on my plans, you do some things post-workout to be anti-catabolic, but your main meal is still at night with all the starchy with the majority of starchy carbohydrates there. So that's why I said I call it feast, intermittent feast, because what you do during the day is a little more flexible. Some people like the more traditional 3 spread. They're like, hey, I want to eat breakfast. Like, fine, go ahead. You have a protein-only breakfast. Keep insulin low by not, eating a bunch of refined carbs. But, you can do that. But regardless, in my plans, you're still eating your biggest meal and the majority of your carbs at night. Just, again, because of from the practicality standpoint of it.
Yeah, man. Very cool, man. Very cool information. I appreciate that question was for me. I wanted to know what your take was on that post-workout window. So I got one more question I'd like to ask all of my guests. Obviously, you're very successful in your professional life. You're very successful in your athletic life as well. What's your secret to success, Nate? What's your secret to success?
Honestly, I've been thinking about a lot about this lately. It's really... It's so fun. Wow, man, you're reading my mind, man. Just been what's going on in my life. It's authenticity. It's staying true to yourself. I think so many people are miserable in their life because they're doing things that they think they should be doing or that society says that they're supposed to do or whatever. And to me, I've always been able to be happy and it's kind of leading to success is always just being true to myself. Like I'm pursuing my passion, right? Like, I could go probably get a job that I make, a ton more money in, but, I'm passionate about this stuff. So I want to do this stuff every day. So I've made this my career and sure enough, it's starting to develop and grow and things like that. And I really think it is, just staying true to yourself and doing the things that are right in your gut, not what anyone else says you have to do. And I think that ultimately leads to success as a side effect, not necessarily as a goal. So I think it's authenticity, man. Chase stuff that out there that you're passionate about, and good things will come from it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I love that. I think that with the advent of the internet and the information age, that this authenticity, this transparency, it's going to show on these false gurus we talked about at the beginning of this. There's no way they can stay in business. It's just not going to work anymore. You got to be real.
I agree. Those people will be weeded out very quick because people are just becoming smarter as consumers as well, and I think that's a good thing. I think they'll start, some of the shysters out there will start to fall off, and you'll see true experts kind of rise to the top.
Sure.
And true, and just passionate people. You know what I mean? Passionate people are going to go continue learning and get better. So even if you're not the greatest now, you'll continue climbing that ladder because you're never going to stop, right? So. Right. That's why I said that's the only way to be successful. I think is to pursue something you're passionate about, because you won't do everything necessary to continue growing and climbing the ladder if you're not passionate about something. It's just too hard. There's too much competition these days. So you really have to choose something that you're passionate about to continue growing and become successful, I think.
Well, that's fantastic, Nate. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your new book coming out? We talked a lot about the principles here, but you got a project that you've been working on for a while that's literally coming out very, very soon.
Yeah, it's definitely a book. It's definitely a product, but it's way more than that. It's basically 15 years of my research and my experience training people, coaching people, my own athletic experience, and basically people were like, hey, you got some great stuff out there. You got some good articles. You've been good information. We got to get this all in one spot, baby, and put it out there. So it's really a compilation of all that stuff put into one product. It's on the feast structure we were talking about. Feast Your Fat Away is what it's called, and it really goes into all those topics in more detail about why carbs are good for some people, not for others. What are the best food choices? What are some good eating templates? Why and how you can set up your diet to be more practicable. So maybe a reduced meal frequency and eating majority of calories and carbs at night. Some modifications for people who train based on when they train. So what to do when you work out in the morning versus afternoon versus evening. We just try to put everything that we could into it, and a lot of it was refinements of earlier stuff that I put out and got a ton of questions about, and try to once you start going through them, they're like there's the most common ones, right? So it really was answering those and just refining the approach. And like I said, it's been 15 years to get to this point, and I think I've really after that amount of time got something that's pretty awesome, and I think it is, and the people who use it are getting fantastic results. So it's really addresses everything in the diet and nutrition industry, and then gives people. And I focus on the practical application strategy. So there's science there to support it, but really I think my goal is to give people actionable strategies that they can go out and take and use and get great results in the real world. So that's really what we tried to focus on.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll be posting a link below the show notes, and I'll send an email out to when that product goes 100% live there. So Nate, thank you so much, brother. Thank you for being on the call.
Thanks for having me, man. And I hope sometimes I ramble. I hope some good information came out there, and I hope you guys benefit from it.
All right, brother. Thanks so much.